Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, known as the nutrition detective around these here YouTube parts, and we have an exciting show today. We got a bunch of cool things to talk about, and so we're going to go over my hair regrowth program will be launching in like 3 days. So I wanted to go over some stuff about that. I'm going to go over some testimonials, some really cool, relatively short testimonials compared to the ones we've had in the past. And I'm also going to go over the obvious Pharma smear campaign against flush niacin and how they try to group flush niacin in with the crap that they fortify foods with, as in niacinamide. So yeah, we're going to go over all this stuff. Okay, so first, you may see a little bit of stuff going on my hairline. Well, we have that is part of the hair regrowth approach that we are going to be doing. It is going to combine detox. It's going to combine nutrition. It's going to combine actual, physical methods to work on this stuff. And it all ties together into a cohesive framework and narrative. Just like, so if you're doing the Love Your Liver program, nothing you're doing about that is going to change. I've come up with this program that, restoring hair, and people are noticing, and I keep seeing changes up there. My kids keep seeing it. Kelsey keeps seeing it. So it's exciting and it's working. And this is in a man who I could probably, my hair was thinning in my 20s. And I have the same pattern that my father did and my brother did. So we are fixing stuff that is going to be very exciting. So I want to let you guys know that when we do, if you want to get we're going to have a founder's rate, a less expensive rate for those people who join first, within the first 2 weeks of this being open. So if you want to make sure that you're going to be, get the information, and when we drop it, probably want to get on my email list. You can do this on the homepage at nutritiondetective.com up at the top. You can sign up for the Madness of Modern Nutrition newsletter, and that's how you're on the email list. You can also go to madnessofmodernnutrition.com and sign up there. And so if you want to do that, that is the best way to be informed about it when it drops. You can go to, I'm going to announce it on Twitter. I'll announce it on YouTube, all the places I normally announce things. But yeah, so if you want to do that, then after those 2 weeks, the price is going to jump about 50% up. And I'm going to be adding things as we go. It's complete right now. So if you're a Love Your Liver person right now, you've got all the nutrition and toxicity information that we do. You're going to be getting the extra stuff. Like, we're going to have a recipe, a hair spray from Kelsey that you can make at home. We're going to have other cool stuff that only we do. So, and approaches that make sense. I'm pretty good at combining these things. So half of this program is like Love Your Liver principles. And are we going to, if you're not in the Love Your Liver program, I'm going to be giving you the basics of the diet, nutrition stuff, and the toxicity stuff in there. I'm not going to go into detail. It's going to, there's so much stuff already in there. And then we're going to go over the methods and the other things that you do. Folks, hair growth, you hear people on the internet say nutrition will fix your hair thinning, your hair loss. It doesn't work. Most of us know this, or they do it and they get a little bit back, but it never happens as much as they want, because you actually have to go in there. There are physical changes happening in your scalp that you must address. Okay. So anyway, so there's no quick fixes to this. This is work. There's no guarantees, because people just don't do things, and there's no refunds as usual. You buy something at the store that you use and you don't get a refund on it. So what we're going to do is, you guys have all seen you guys have seen from the old live streams, you've seen the changes in my hair. You've seen the changes in my actual face structure. I'm not going to be I don't know if I'm going to go over that stuff in there, but I've told you guys most of what I did for that. So these things actually really work, and you can see it week by week, year by year in me here. So anyway, I'm going to tell you exactly what I did, and there will be different levels of things, for depending upon people's ability to either devote their own time and energy to it, which is usually less convenient, but it costs you more in terms of energy and time. And then there will be options that are more convenient, but cost you more money to do. This is life, isn't it? Right? You can pay more and do less, or you can pay less and do more. And I'm going to have all those options for you. So that's that. So I wanted to hit on that. Like I said, the link will drop Friday. So that's when that's going to happen. Now I want to get into some quick testimonials. Joe's going to post the link to this in the live chat, and we'll post it. He'll do a pinned comment after we're done. Let me share my screen. Joe, I forgot to do that today. Let me go in there and share that. Not that one. This one. Okay, so let me scroll down to the testimonials. So right here, let me zoom in a little bit. And okay, so right here, we're going over this number one testimonial, an MSG testimony. So if those of you who haven't seen the MSG episode, you should watch it. MSG is super helpful for your liver and just about everything else. So with this testimonial is posted as usual. These testimonials are posted in the Love Your Liver program inside my private network, the Love Your Liver program. I don't use people's names here just to help protect me from getting, dinged for medical privacy stuff. But if you're in the Love Your Liver program, you can always look up these by keywords and find them. So within a week of taking it, my dried, cracked heels completely healed. A few weeks later, they are still looking good / completely normal. Folks, your dried, cracked heels are toxicity. Oftentimes, your dried, cracked heels are yellow. Gosh, what would be accumulating in your skin that's yellow, causing skin problems? Vitamin A and other toxicities. So, MSG helps run pretty much your entire detox system. Between flush niacin and MSG, we are addressing the two biggest things that your body needs for detox. One is the niacin helps with NAD production, but don't use anything other than flush niacin. We're going to go over that today. And then glutamate helps with ATP production. It helps give your liver what it needs. It just helps everything. We now have somebody who had I'm going to go over this testimonial in the future, but she had a copper ring in her eye, like with Wilson's disease. She had the ring of copper in her eye, and it is going away. This is pretty much unheard of. And she doesn't have Wilson's disease. Folks, when you read on the internet where they're like, only Wilson's disease has copper accumulation, they're lying to you. We all know, anybody who's been here long enough knows that that's a lie. So let's go to the second testimonial. So first, see the picture? See this right here? Here's the story. I took this photo about a month ago. This crack from a hammer injury has been on my ring finger since I was a teenager, 34 now. So we're talking, basically 20 years-ish. Used to go all the way to the middle. So it used to go down deeper. Never in my life has it ever disappeared until very recently, since I've been on the Love Your Liver program, not even following it perfectly for a little over a year. Has anybody else experienced something like this? It's like my body is finally doing deep healing. There's other examples of this too, like my thumb has had what seems like a wart for years, and it's finally starting to go away. Warts, people will be like, warts are viruses. Viruses are nonsense. Viruses are expressions of toxicity. So we have a deep, crack in a nail that is now healing. It's going back upwards. See, so this thing is healing. It's moving out. And then he had a wart on his thumb. Everybody's like, oh, it's a virus. No, it's toxicity. It's stored toxicity. When your body makes lumps and bumps, whatever medicine calls it, warts, fibroids, cysts, tumors, just like we had last week with Olivia talking about how she had PCOS and they identified a cyst on her ovary that is not there anymore. All these lumps and bumps are toxicity. Why would your body make more tissue if it was like a deficiency state? That doesn't make sense. Why would it take more resources and make tissue if it's depleted? Does that make sense? Your body's making more tissue and using that energy and those resources to make more toxicity storage space. And that's why these things, as we fix the toxicities, your body starts doing deep healing and fixing things like getting rid of warts, actually, I was talking to Kelsey the other day, and I talked to her. She actually mentioned that she had a couple skin tags in her past, and when she started doing flush niacin, they went away. Okay. Well, I told her that when I started doing enough topical magnesium, back then I was using magnesium oil, my skin tags I had some in my armpit and I had some in my groin, just little ones, but they fell off and disappeared. So now we have these lumps and bumps going away from reducing toxicity, flush niacin, magnesium oil. Do all these things help your detox? Yes, you need them to run the system. You don't want to put toxins in, and you want to make sure you have the nutrients to make things run. So that's the 2 testimonials. Pretty awesome. Now, moving on. So we're going to get into the smear campaign that will be very obvious from Pharma about they're trying to make new drugs to raise your HDL. Wait until you see what they're trying to make. And they're doing it, and they're going to smear nicotinic acid and niacinamide together. So remember, how many of you out there have gone trying to buy flush niacin in the stores or online? It's not easy, is it? Like, I've got people in Europe who are like, where can I even buy nicotinic acid, flush niacin? People outside of the US, they can hardly find it. I can tell you that at the natural grocers near me, they have one option, a 50 milligram tablet. Tablets suck. I'm working on multiple flush niacin products now that are going to be pre-buffered. So in the future, when you do this, those of you who are already buffering, you won't have to buffer ever again. And we'll be the only company doing it. But there's research now coming out because they want to push the cholesterol thing, but they have to smear flush niacin. So what are they going to do? They're going to group it with niacinamide, which is trash. Do not take any, you're going to see in these papers, do not take any niacin that is not flush niacin. You want to take a B complex with niacinamide in it? Well, there's research that says that that's not good for you. So first, I want you to realize whenever you see anything smearing niacin as a whole, it's extremely difficult to buy flush niacin. So they're really not talking about that. Flush niacin is not in multivitamins. Flush niacin is not in B complexes. Flush niacin is not used to fortify foods. They don't use flush niacin in any of these things because, and those of you who had this issue, it is what it is. Too many people whine and bitch and complain about the flush. So companies that use flush niacin regularly have to, people will ask for refunds. I had a reaction to this. Why do you think we call it flush niacin? So people understand, we put it on the label. You're going to flush. You don't have to like it. You're going to flush, most likely. And this is part of the process. This is how it works. The flush is going through the priest-handler pathway. I'm going to have Kelsey on sometime to geek out about more on niacin. I got some of these papers from her today because I wanted to go over the smear campaign and how it even caught Grant and other people in its net because they didn't look at the conflicts of interest in the smear papers. So we get to go into it. So nicotinic acid, flush niacin is good. As you guys saw that a couple of weeks ago, I went over that paper where they were saying of all the drugs we tried to help with, or we looked into for fatty liver, only flush niacin. This is where they'll confuse you in the papers too. They'll often say niacin. And in a lot of the studies, when they specifically say niacin, they mean nicotinic acid. Nicotinic acid is Ni, the word niacin, Ni, nicotinic, right? AC, acid, In, vitamin. Niacin acid vitamin, nicotinic acid is the only true real niacin you should be messing with. Okay, so let's get into it. So for those of you who aren't aware, I have a Substack now. And here it is if you want to find it, drgarrettsmith.substack.com. If you haven't seen it already, we've got about 400 plus people there now. And I've been doing an article series. It's at article number 5. Article number 6 will hopefully be coming out, if not this week. Probably not this week because I got the hair regrowth program to push out, but it'll probably come out next week. So that'll be the 6th and final article. But what I wanted to go over is from this 5th article here. The 5th article is, yeah, there it is. So this is about Grant Generou's misdirected, as most people have, they lump niacinamide and nicotinic acid into the same thing. So what I wanted to go over this is where I go over at the end of it, the 2PY and 4PY study. So for those of you who aren't familiar with this paper, it is this one. A terminal metabolite of niacin promotes vascular inflammation and contributes to cardiovascular disease risk. That's the study title. Now, first of all, let me hit on another little pathway thing so you guys can understand this. I don't remember which paper I got this from, but these are the two pathways. So that whole paper talks about 2PY and 4PY, and they don't actually demonstrate in people that these things are connected. I go over all that in the article. You can see all the references. You can see all the connection. I just want you to pay attention to this. These are the niacin pathways. Pathway 1, flushing. This is flush niacin, makes nicotinic acid. Pathway 2, which could lead to some liver toxicity, is niacinamide. That's NAM. That's what NAM means. Okay? Wait, the first pathway doesn't have hepatotoxicity, and this is well known. Whereas pathway 2 is nicotinamide. What do they fortify your food with? Nicotinamide. What do they put in your multivitamins? Nicotinamide. What do they put in B complexes? Nicotinamide. Nicotinamide is what's considered, it goes into a recycle or a salvage pathway. Would you want to be putting too much stuff into a recycle or salvage pathway that you have to use even more energy to get out of it? If you can't get it out of it, you accumulate it. Don't take niacinamide. Don't take any niacin that says it doesn't flush. So that includes inositol hexaniacinate. We don't use NR, nicotinamide, which is niacinamide riboside. We don't use the NMN. Those are all niacinamide bound to something. I want you to remember, flush niacin doesn't have niacinamide in it. It doesn't go down this pathway. It goes into the Priest-Handler pathway, which is the flushing. So again, this 2PY. So I want you to pay attention. So they're saying niacin. They just generalize niacin, right? And people got duped. Now I want to hit on what the important stuff is here. So we didn't go over, most people, when they look at this study, they don't look at the conflicts of interest. Well, let me go in here and show you the conflicts of interest. So I have this picture in the Substack, but I have it highlighted better here on this actual paper. So let's go and find it. So we're going down to the acknowledgements. So first of all, the NIH is actually, so remember, PubMed is like a library of studies. People who are not educated in science seem to think that anything on PubMed was paid for by the NIH. That is not true. That would be like saying, like, the government published all the books in a library. Okay, the government funds the library. Other people publish the books, and then the library holds them. PubMed is a library of studies. That doesn't mean that just because the NIH hosts the website that the NIH funded it all, but the NIH literally funded this work. Okay? So let's go into all the pharma stuff behind this paper so they could smear nicotinic acid, and we'll see why they do that. The lipid cardio study was partially supported by the Sanofi Aventis Deutschland GmbH. Sanofi Aventis is full pharma. Dr. Hazen is the main person on the study. Dr. Hazen and Wang report being named as co-inventors on pending and issued patents held by the Cleveland Clinic relating to cardiovascular diagnostics and therapeutics. The Cleveland Clinic, do they do alternative medicine? No. Doctors Hazen and Wang also report having received royalty payments for inventions or discoveries related to cardiovascular diagnostics or therapeutics, Pharma, from Cleveland Heart Lab, a fully owned subsidiary of Quest Diagnostics, and Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble is not necessarily a pharmaceutical company, but over-the-counter stuff for sure, which are basically pharmaceuticals. Dr. Hazen is a paid consultant for Zena Therapeutics, remember that one, and Procter & Gamble, and has received research funds from Zena Therapeutics, Procter & Gamble, Pfizer, and Roche Diagnostics. Pfizer, huh? I thought it was very interesting that people who, like Grant himself, who are very anti-pokey, which would mean they were very anti-Pfizer, would be quoting a study funded by Pfizer and people who work for Pfizer. Dr. Tang is a consultant for Cardiol Therapeutics Pharma, Genomics PLC, well, they're going to be messing in pharma, Zena Therapeutics, hey, again, and Renovacor. These are all pharmaceutical companies. Okay. Let me see. Was there anything else I need to go over in this one? Nope, that was it. So I'm saying this is a pharma funded study. Now, why would they be doing this? Well, let me make this a little, sorry, Joe, I'll get back here. Let me make this a little bigger. So what type of drug is Dr. Hazen developing with the Esperion pharmaceutical company? Why would he want to disparage niacin and nicotinic acid altogether? So they had to smear them all together. Esperion Therapeutics, Dr. Hazen co-developed an enhanced / high-performance HDL formulation, a genetically engineered version of high-density lipoprotein, HDL, the good cholesterol that retains longer activity in artery walls to reverse plaque buildup. This was partnered with Esperion Therapeutics, leveraging Cleveland Clinic's discovery through Cleveland Clinic Innovations. Esperion is advancing the compound towards human clinical trials. So they're going to literally give people basically genetically modified HDL. Why would they have to do that? Why are they going to try to do this while smearing niacin? Let me see if I have. No, I didn't grab that study, but I'm going to do it right here. So yeah, let me show this one, Joe. We're on the right one. So why would Pharma want to go after? Why would they want to make a genetically engineered version of HDL to go after flush niacin, nicotinic acid? Because flush niacin is the greatest cholesterol fixing compound ever. It's in the research. Let's go over that. And I went over how flush niacin helps people to literally live longer, even 9 years after they stop taking the niacin medication that was out there, the slow release one, which isn't even that great. Okay. From this paper, Understanding Niacin Formulations, Joe, I'm going to send you this link in our chat so you can post it. I don't have this on the link sheet. I'll need to add it. Niacin is an important therapeutic option for the treatment of dyslipidemias, that's cholesterol issues, and is the only agent currently available that favorably affects all components of the lipid profile to a significant degree. So it's the only thing that helps fix all of it. Your high cholesterol, folks, you don't want to force your liver. You don't want to do statins and do other things like even the red yeast rice and that stuff. You don't want to do these things that force your cholesterol down. High cholesterol is a sign that you are toxic. Niacin literally helps you detox, which is why flush niacin helps all the aspects of your cholesterol because it's literally providing NAD that is needed to run like 400 different detox pathways in your body for all sorts of different toxins. This is why it's so different, and this is why they have to go after it. Niacin has when they're saying niacin here, they mean nicotinic acid. This is why it's so confusing in the literature. Niacin has consistently been shown to significantly reduce levels of total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, triglycerides, and lipoprotein A, while having, this is the important part, the greatest high-density lipoprotein cholesterol-raising effects of all available agents. It's getting your body to do it. Well, the important thing here, does it actually work? Niacin has also been shown to significantly reduce coronary events and total mortality. It's lowering risk of death from all causes, and it's reducing heart disease, strokes, heart attacks. And as I said here, the only way they can even begin to compete with the natural and healthy LDL cholesterol raising ability of nicotinic acid is to literally put synthetic HDL into the body and then to create deceptive pseudoscientific smear research studies. So anyway, this paper, this one, is trash. It is a Pharma hit piece trying to badmouth niacin. Now let's go and see if the Cleveland Clinic has paid for any other smear pieces on niacin where they try to include nicotinic acid in it. So somebody on Twitter sent me this paper the other day, Niacin Supplementation and Mortality in the U.S. Population, Analysis of the NHANES Diet Interviews and TriNetX Health Records. Again, folks, many of you know that getting flush niacin is quite challenging. It's not easy. I mean, of course, you can search on the internet and find it, but when you think of how many places are selling it, it's not many. Like I said, I have people over in other countries outside of the US who are saying, where the heck can I get this stuff? I can't even get it. But they're giving niacinamide everywhere. So let's hit on this. First, before we go into this paper, pay attention to these terms. Case Western Reserve University. Where are they? Cleveland, Ohio. The Center for Clinical Informatics Research and Education, pay attention to this. The Metro Health System, Cleveland, Ohio. The Departments of Internal Medicine, Pediatrics, and Population and Quantitative Health Sciences, Case Western Reserve University, Cleveland, Ohio. And these are the affiliations of these authors. Okay. And then we have the Department of Population and Quantitative Health Sciences, Case Western Reserve University, Cleveland, Ohio. So we already saw Cleveland Clinic and Dr. Hazen and a smear study on nicotinic acid. Well, let's see if Cleveland Clinic and these places are connected. So remember what we just said. The Clinical and Translational Science Collaborative, CTSC of Northern Idaho, a collaborative among Case Western Reserve University and its affiliated hospital systems. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Here we are. CTSC of Northern Ohio, a collaborative among Case Western Reserve University, we already mentioned that, and its affiliated hospital systems, the Cleveland Clinic, and Metro Health. This is like a little health mafia right here. A little scientific study smear mafia that are making genetically engineered HDL. You following me? Let's just hit on this again. Let's go on this one. Case Western Reserve-based medical research collaborative awarded $56.3 million federal grant to improve the region's health. So the NIH gave this Case Western Reserve University School 7-year, $56.3 million grant to smear niacin. The funding builds on nearly $175 million from the NIH since 2007 to basically pay the Cleveland Clinic and its other companies to make fake, poison. Since its inception, the CTSC has included Cleveland Clinic and the Metro Health System. So we just keep seeing the same terms over and over. The NIH funding it, the renewed NIH support. What are they doing? In the first 3 award cycles, CTSC tripled the number of biomedical companies spun out annually from Case Western Reserve. They're creating new pharma companies. Oh, maybe like Asperion Therapeutics. They developed their fake study army, developed a robust, diverse, and collaborative doctoral level workforce through training programs, including involving researchers in pivotal national clinical trials. They're trying to force you to believe in their pharma stuff. That's what they're trying to do. So now that we understand the connections between Cleveland and smearing niacin, let's get into it deeper. So again, there's no nuance here. They're just going to group nicotinic acid and niacinamide all together, even though they go through completely different pathways in the body. Niacin, including nicotinic acid and nicotinamide, is among the most commonly used dietary supplements and is considered generally safe based on decades of clinical trials with therapeutic doses of 1,000 to 5,000 milligrams a day. They're really talking about nicotinic acid. When you talk about these high doses, they're talking about nicotinic acid, but they're going to group it all together. As a dietary supplement, niacin is used below this dose range, often without a specific indication. Like when you're out there or your family and your friends are out there taking multivitamins and B complexes and eating fortified foods. That's who they're talking about. Although previous investigations have shown associations between increasing niacin intake from food and decreasing mortality risk, the optimal niacin supplement dose for minimizing mortality risk in the general population remains unclear. Note how they didn't distinguish between the two types. Kind of important. Let's keep going. And then let's go into what they found. Let's go into these other studies where they say the Taiwanese Elderly Nutrition and Health Study found no association between niacin supplement use and mortality risk, but did not have supplement dose information. Okay, so we have one paper with no connection. A study of the Vanderbilt University Medical Center and Veterans Association electronic health records similarly found no association between nicotinamide supplement use and mortality risk, but tested dose response effects with exposure duration, so how long they took it, rather than dose magnitude, how much they took. Chen analyzed niacin supplement dosage by comparing users at or above the median dose, 18 milligrams a day, versus non-users, and reported no mortality risk difference. So this is kind of like when we were going over that nicotinic acid blog that was trying to claim that nicotinic acid would cause osteoporosis, and yet the paper that was quoted had 3 other references in it saying it had no effect on osteoporosis. So, let's see. Finally, niacin, as in niacinamide, is fortified in processed foods in the U.S., but the amount of processed food in participants' diets is not documented in the NHANES. What? Why not? Why did they not go over that? Why do they not care? Making processed food a possible confounding factor in an area warranting further investigation. Do you believe the government is trying to help us by fortifying foods? Anything you see fortified in foods, you should be afraid of. It doesn't mean you have to paint a giant picture of if, niacinamides in foods that then therefore nicotinic acid falls into the same thing. Don't do that. But let's see who funded this paper. This project was supported in part by the Clinical and Translational Science Collaborative, the CTSC of Cleveland, which is funded by the NIH, the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences Clinical and Translational Science Award grant. MF was supported by NIH training grant, whatever. Okay, so this is an article where they basically tried to say that the more niacin supplementation people took, the worse their health risk was. Fortified foods, multivitamins, B complexes, people taking niacinamide. What do they use in topical formulations like ladies, in the aesthetic cosmetic type stuff? What do they brag about? Niacinamide, which you would absorb into your system. Don't take niacinamide. Just don't take it. But don't paint with a broad brush and then think that nicotinic acid is the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's just like people don't understand that when they're taking in nicotine, your body is actually oxidizing that pesticide into nicotinic acid. And this is why a lot of people don't want to give up their cigarettes. But then when they get on nicotinic acid, they go, I don't feel like I need to smoke anymore. We've had this multiple times. People get the nutrient that they need. And remember, nicotinic acid is much more like an amino acid than it is any of the other B vitamins. Actually, Kelsey had something she wanted to go over. I don't have it today, but nicotinic acid is the only vitamin that was not discovered with funding from Pharma. I don't have that reference right now, but Kelsey has it. Okay. Nicotinic acid is built different. It is a different thing. So let me go and find. Okay. So I want to go over again why. I want to give you some examples and set some things straight about flush niacin versus all the other stuff. So if you're asking me, can I take inositol hexaniacinate? No, that's specifically a slow release. Can I take pharmaceutical sustained release, slow release niacin, nicotinic acid? We don't suggest it. Could it still help? Sure, but we don't suggest it because the slower it comes out, let me show you. The slower that the niacin comes out in your system, you want it to be immediate. You want it to be a powder or a capsule. So it is in your system immediately. So it goes through, let me show you again. Immediate release is flushing. The slower it comes out, the more of it goes down this way. This is just the way it is. So if you're going to take niacin at all, some of the people out there taking B complexes, I feel bad for you. Like, don't. They're just like, I'm just going to shotgun it. Whatever. Okay, whatever. Go ahead. So, a comparison of the efficacy and toxic effects of sustained, this is the slow release, versus immediate release niacin in hypercholesterolemic patients. So these people already have high cholesterol. Okay. So randomized, double-blind, parallel comparison of immediate release, IR, and sustained release niacin administered sequentially at 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, and 3,000 milligrams a day, each for 6 weeks. That's a long, if I'm reading this correctly, they took 500 for 6 weeks, 1,000 for 6 weeks, 1,500 for 6 weeks, 2,000 for 6 weeks, and 3,000 for 6 weeks. That's a lot, especially when you get into the niacinamide. And you'll see what happens. So pay attention here. Now, before I go into this, I'm going to remind you, look at these doses. What's the lowest dose of flush niacin that we make? 25 milligrams. These people were jumping in. They were jumping in pretty deep. Even the study on Gulf War veterans, where they were doing the kind of, if you want to call it the Scientology sauna and exercise detox approach, they started low. And then they went up only when their flush had decreased. Like when their flush intensity. So if let's say they started at 200 and they took it for a couple days, and then they were talking to the researchers and they said, is your flush less intense than it was 2 days ago? And they'd say yes. Then they would bump up their dose. So they waited for the people to tolerate each dose before they jumped up. Is these people in this study, they're just going to go up anyway. Like, that's the study. You're just going to jump up. And if your body can't handle it, you drop out of the study, or you have side effects or whatever. So this is not respecting the individual's tolerance levels at all. This is not this is a study. This is not medicine. Okay. So when we get into this, if some people have side effects from either of these niacins, well, they're not listening to their body at all. They're doing a study. Okay. So the sustained release lowered LDL, bad cholesterol levels, significantly more than immediate release niacin did at the dosage of 1,500 milligrams a day and above. Okay. They both did it. Sustained release did it more for LDL, while immediate release niacin increased HDL cholesterol levels significantly more than sustained release niacin did at all dosage levels. Good cholesterol, again, nothing fixes your good cholesterol better than flush niacin. Immediate release, okay? The reduction in triglyceride levels were similar with immediate release and sustained release niacin. Now, I'm sorry, both of these supplements are nicotinic acid. The sustained release, I think I went over this study before, but I could always go over it again. They actually showed in another paper that the negative effects of sustained release niacin were actually partially related not only to the slow release, but to the binders that they put in there. Don't do sustained release anything. It's not really good for you. Okay. 9 of the 23 patients assigned to the immediate release dosage form withdrew before completing the 3,000 milligram daily dose. The most common reasons for withdrawal were vasodilatory symptoms. That's flush. Fatigue. This can happen at high doses of niacin, and it goes away over time. And acanthosis nigricans. Okay, so that's a skin issue. That is, let me go over this real quick. Acanthosis nigricans is a skin condition characterized by dark, thick, velvety patches that appear in body folds and creases, most commonly the armpits, groin, and the back of the neck. It is often associated with insulin resistance, obesity, and type 2 diabetes, and may also be linked to hormonal disorders such as polycystic ovary syndrome, certain medications like birth control pills or corticosteroids, and rarely internal malignancies such as stomach or colon cancer. Folks, are you catching that these people are really toxic? Insulin resistance, obesity, type 2 diabetes, PCOS, taking drugs like birth control or corticosteroids, and even cancer. So these people are toxic. What do we talk about all the time about people detoxing too hard? It can create symptoms. One of the things that Grant talked about in his smear article of me was he said some people got dry skin, or two people reported to him, I think, one with dry skin and one with eczema. Okay. They probably pushed too hard and didn't start slow, and they detoxed through the skin. Now, Kelsey's been doing the flush niacin with people a lot longer than I have. And what she says is if these people simply lower their dose to the point where it doesn't aggravate their skin and they continue on it, the dry skin or the other skin issues go away. It's a detox reaction. Do you have to push so hard that you have the reaction? No. You just don't have to push that hard. So let's keep going. 18 of the 23 patients assigned to the sustained release dosage form withdrew before completing the 3,000 milligram daily dose. The most common reasons for withdrawal were GI symptoms, fatigue, and increases in levels of liver aminotransferases. That's liver enzymes. Often with symptoms of hepatic dysfunction. Slow release, I told you, goes more into the niacinamide pathway. You do not want slow release at all. If you're going to do niacin, you do flush niacin. Don't do anything that is non-flush, or don't do it. Because why? None of the patients taking immediate release niacin developed hepatotoxic effects. None of them had any liver problems, while 52% of the 23 patients taking sustained release niacin did. Okay? Like, if you're going to do things right, there's nuance to it. These folks, the ones who finished the study, they were taking 3,000 milligrams a day for 6 weeks. So they took 500 for 6 weeks, 1,000 for 6 weeks, 1,500 for 6 weeks, 2,000 for 6 weeks, and then 3,000 for 6 weeks, right? Yep, they didn't do 2,500. They skipped that one. None of them taking, so the people who try to badmouth flush niacin and say it's bad for your liver, they're wrong. Let me go back to this Diagram. Flushing, immediate release, no hepatotoxicity. Slow release or niacinamide, your liver doesn't like it. This is a critical difference. Okay? So, let's see. Let's get back into, here we go. Okay. So what is their conclusion? The sustained release form of niacin is hepatotoxic and should be restricted from use. The pharmaceutical form of flush niacin. The pharmaceutical form of flush niacin, which is got additives and slow release fillers and all sorts of crap in it, and is non-flushing. The immediate release niacin is preferred for the management of hypercholesterolemia, but can also cause significant adverse effects and should only be given to patients who can be carefully monitored by experienced health professionals. Well, there wasn't that many negative effects. It was just they took too much and they didn't like the flushing. Hold on. Okay. So, this paper right here, safety and side effects of sustained release niacin. That's probably where they go. That's probably the one where they go into the sustained release stuff actually being the cause of problems when they say there's problems with nicotinic acid. So we did that. Now let's go into, okay. Let's hit on this. Remember, government's involvement in nutrition is not for your benefit. What do they give people, again, in fortified foods, in supplements, whether it's multivitamins, B complexes, or niacin, or even topicals? They do niacinamide. Okay? Chronic niacin overload may be involved in the increased prevalence of obesity in U.S. children. There's 2 papers on this. They're looking specifically into nicotinamide, which is what is put in food and is in all the supplements. The obesity prevalence among American children increased with the increasing per capita niacin consumption, the niacinamide, nicotinamide, the increasing grain contribution to niacin due to niacin fortification, and the increasing niacin-fortified ready-to-eat cereal consumption with a 10-year lag. Let's hit on here. Conclusion, the appetite-stimulating effect of nicotinamide appears to involve oxidative stress. Excess niacin consumption may be a major factor in the increased obesity prevalence in U.S. children. Let me see if there was anything else we looked at. Again, during the past few decades, one of the significant but relatively overlooked worldwide changes in dietary composition has been the marked increase in the content of nicotinamide. And they, of course, they try to group nicotinic acid in here, but we all know you can hardly even find it. It's not nicotinic acid. Like, they're not fortifying foods with nicotinic acid. They're not putting it in supplements because people try to return it and they complain because they don't understand what the literal word flush means, why they put that there. Okay. Now there's, like, I think the Cal brand of flush niacin, which was what I started with. It was a 50 milligram tablet. That does not say anything about flushing, or maybe it has like one little line at the bottom. Like, they just call it's called niacin on the label. So yeah, people are going to take it and be like, oh my gosh, why am I having this reaction? It's a flush. Okay. I take 2,500 milligrams of niacin. I've probably been doing so for a year. Why is my liver not falling apart? Why am I still here doing this every week? Why am I making such good gains in the gym? Well, it definitely can't be the nicotinic acid causing me problems, because if it would, it would have caused it by now. And at one point, like I said, I took 15 grams a day for a week, and one of those days I took 20 grams a day. I didn't flush it all because I was taking it's a long explanation, but when you take, the longer you take the flush niacin, the more it clears out the toxins in your skin, which is what the detox of the toxins in your skin is what causes the flush. So if you're really clearing out the toxins in your skin on a daily basis with flush niacin, eventually you start flushing less. The flush niacin, the immediate release, is still doing what it does in your system. Most of the increased niacin consumption comes from grain products due to the implementation of mandatory, because your government loves you, niacin fortification, i.e. the addition of niacin to food, started from the early 1940s. Most significantly, a sharp increase in the grain contribution in 1974 due to an update of niacin fortification standards. The government said, we love you even harder now, has made grains the largest contributor. However, the effect of long-term exposure to excess niacin on human health is poorly understood. So your government decided to put niacinamide in your food while they poorly understand the effect of long-term exposure to excess niacin, specifically niacinamide. So now, okay, so I want you to understand here. I talk about this a lot. You can prevent or make one disease go away while you create another disease. You understand? You can create disease while you fix a different disease. This is really, really important. So I'm going to hit on that now. Niacin fortification has been practiced first in many developed countries to prevent pellagra, a disease due to niacin deficiency, and then introduced to developing countries. So could adding niacinamide or nicotinamide to foods prevent pellagra, the specific niacin deficiency disease? Yes. Could it create new diseases? Yes. Soon after the introduction of niacin fortification, the prevalence of obesity and diabetes has begun to increase rapidly, first in developed countries and then in developing countries, basically in a similar way as the niacin fortification spread. I mean, if you're looking at me taking all this nicotinic acid for a year now, why am I not obese and diabetic? Because it's not the same. This is really challenging to explain to people because people just want to be like, oh my gosh, it's bad. Because the studies say niacin. Okay. Oh, there's an interesting explanation. Grains, flours, and cereals, the main source of carbohydrate, are the most widely used vehicles for niacin fortification. As a result, the niacin content in fortified grain products has been significantly increased. So they keep increasing it in the food. Traditionally, low-fat, high-carbohydrate diets were used to treat type 2 diabetes. They're still using that. However, since the implementation of niacin fortification in the U.S. from the early 1940s and the significant increase in carbohydrate consumption during the past 3 decades, more and more studies from the U.S. have found that as that high carbohydrates diets increase instead of decrease the risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes. Then low carbohydrate diets have been used to treat obesity and diabetes since the late 1990s. Whether such a profound change in the effect of carbohydrate diets is related to niacin fortification of grains is not known. How many of you folks, if it was you or somebody you knew, when they say, I'm going like on a low carb diet, I mean, they take out added sugars, right? And they take out grains. They're taking out all this added nicotinamide, niacinamide. Okay? That's what they're doing. Would that then decrease their cravings for carbohydrates? That's what they're saying here. They're actually, part of this paper talks about niacinamide increases your carbohydrate craving, and you eat more food. You literally eat more food when you eat this. Okay, let's see. The major findings of this study are: 1, nicotinamide overload, because it's the recycling salvage product, may induce a biphasic, or as 2 phases, effect on glucose metabolism characterized by insulin resistance followed by hypoglycemia. And 2, there is a significant association between the U.S. per capita nicotinamide, niacinamide consumption and the obesity prevalence in the U.S. children and adolescents. These findings may help explain both the development of obesity and the increased prevalence of obesity. So let's see. Oh, here's a fun one. Yeah, let's keep going. Okay. The global prevalence of obesity and diabetes has spread in much the similar way as that of niacin fortification. In contrast, Those countries that had not introduced niacin fortification or that prohibited niacin fortification before the early 1990s, such as Norway, have a low prevalence of obesity and diabetes into the 1990s compared with the niacin fortified countries such as the US and Canada. Thus, the possibility cannot be ruled out that the rapid global increase in the prevalence of obesity in the past 3 decades may be, at least in part, a man-made event due to niacin fortification. Pay attention here. Reducing niacin intake and facilitating niacin elimination through sweat-inducing physical activity may be a key factor in the prevention and treatment of obesity. Reducing niacinamide intake and then sweating. Gosh, sounds a lot like the whole Scientology sauna exercise detox, right? You take your flush niacin, which gets the blood pumping. You do some mild to moderate cardio for 20 to 30 minutes to get the fat burning started. And the blood flow is already up from the niacin. That's the flush. And then you go and you sweat it out in a sauna. Gosh, could it be that the nicotinic acid is maybe getting rid of some of the niacinamide in your system? You see how these are not the same things. The nicotine fad is actually, when people feel better from it, it's because it's putting nicotinic acid into their system by oxidizing the nicotine. Niacinamide is trash, and you don't want to take it in from supplements or fortified foods at all. And if you're going to do anything for niacin, you do flush niacin. Okay? One last thing to hit, just to reemphasize that our government is not trying to help our health. And those of you taking B vitamins, boy, like B complexes, remember what's in food. What do they fortify food with? Niacinamide, folic acid, and thiamin mononitrate. So B vitamin consumption and the prevalence of diabetes and obesity among the US adults, population-based ecological study. The global increased prevalence of obesity and diabetes occurred after the worldwide spread of B vitamins fortification, in which whether long-term exposure to high levels of B vitamins plays a role is unknown. Prevalences of diabetes and adult obesity were highly correlated with per capita consumption of niacin, thiamin, and riboflavin, with a 26 and 10-year lag, respectively. Conclusions. Long-term exposure to high levels of the B vitamins may be involved in the increased prevalence of obesity and diabetes in the U.S. in the past 50 years. The possible roles of B vitamins fortification and excess niacin consumption in the increased prevalence of obesity and diabetes were discussed. So, folks, first of all, some people in the Love Your Liver program use thiamin HCl. We don't use the disulfide, the other types of thiamin. If you're going to use thiamin HCl. If it doesn't help you, stop taking it. Realize that if you're doing the right things in the Love Your Liver program, you will eventually, the symptoms that you took the thiamin for, that it helped, will go away and you don't have to take the thiamin anymore. Thiamin, as I've talked about before, thiamin is, at best, it is an aldehyde antidote. It binds to aldehydes. I think I showed 4 studies or 5 that had thiamin binding to aldehydes. It's like retinol binding protein. Retinol binding protein, your body makes, it binds to retinol and prevents you having as much damage from the retinol. So we take things like taurine can bind to retinaldehyde in the eye. So taurine can help the eye by binding to retinaldehyde. Thiamin HCl can bind to aldehydes and reduce your symptoms. If you do the right thing in detox and you reduce your aldehyde intake and you increase your aldehyde dehydrogenase, your aldehyde detox pathway, you fix the aldehyde problem, and then eventually you don't need the thiamin because the root cause of the problem, which was the excess aldehydes, is gone. Many B vitamins, when they help you, are actually antidoting toxins already in you. So people say that they're necessary when they may not be. Pretty much everybody's toxic. And so if people take the right antidote, they may feel better. Does that mean that it's a deficiency? No. They're toxic and they're antidoting it. I've been over this on other shows. So yeah, don't take niacinamide. That's the basic stuff of today's show. Don't touch niacinamide. Don't take non-flushing niacin. Don't take NMN. Don't take NR. Don't take anything that is nicotinamide or niacinamide. Don't put it on your skin. There's more and more research coming out showing what you put on your skin gets into your blood. So don't put retinol on your skin. Don't put niacinamide on your skin. Don't do that. So our zinc and niacin salve, which is going to be out soon again. So I know a lot of you are really dying to have it out. Okay, we sold 1,000 jars of that in 4.5 months. And yes, it has nicotinic acid in it. It's zinc nicotinate. It's zinc bound to nicotinic acid. And it comes apart as soon as it's in any kind of body fluid, it breaks apart into the two pieces. It doesn't cause flushing unless you're really sensitive and toxic. And even if it does, then you just can use less. But we actually lowered we changed the formula a little bit so that it actually absorbs better and is less likely to cause flushing. So we are going to we're going to keep improving the products, but yeah, the zinc and niacin salve is on its way. We're working on getting the vitamin K back, and the issues we've had with the sun fiber. Hopefully we're going to have the sun fiber back soon. It should all be in production very soon. And we have all the materials. We just got to get them to make it. So yeah, the products we're out of that you guys are waiting for should be back soon. Don't email Julie about it. Okay. Okay. So that is all I have. So let me go over a chat here. Let me get back to this screen. Joe, I'm going to stop the sharing. And I'm going to get my chat window back up so I can see it. Okay, so Steph said in the chat, thanks to Kelsey, I've been taking between 1 to 3 grams a day of flush niacin, she means, for almost 4 years, and I'm doing great. My skin was dry for a few weeks in the beginning, but it went away. So one of the things, this is really cool, right? So this is part of the reason I know when Kelsey saw my work at the start, and I was saying things that she understood that made sense to her, that she had also witnessed. That's one of the reasons why, well, partially we get along so well and we work so well on these products together. So she observed that if people got dry skin from flush niacin and they kept taking it, it would go away. Now you need to understand like the logic here. If a toxicity is developing, if somebody was taking nicotinic acid and it was causing dry skin, does it make sense that if it was a toxicity issue, if they kept taking it, the problem would get worse and worse and worse and worse and never go away? That's the way toxicity works if it's accumulating. So if people get a little dry skin at the start and they reduce their dose to a point where it doesn't cause the symptom, or the symptom is very manageable, and we already know from past experience that the effect fades away, is that a toxicity problem or is that a detox problem? Remember that acanthosis nigrans I showed you? Those people all had really significant toxicity states in that little AI summary I was reading to you. They're detoxing too hard. They're pushing too hard. You want to know what happened most likely to that acanthosis nigrans that they got when they took all that niacin and then they quit the study? It probably went away over the next week or two. Because that's what happens. So if you're ever taking more flush niacin than your body can handle and you're detoxing too hard, take less. Or take a break. We generally suggest if you're taking flush niacin and you think it's contributing to any symptoms, like detox dumping symptoms, your first move is to cut your dose in half. And then if that's not enough, you cut your dose in half again. And then if that's not enough, then you can take a break. You can always take a break. You can do whatever you want. You can take our suggestions, or you can just run with it on your own and quit things and restart them and do that. I'm going to tell you guys, the quitting and restarting and all that stuff, if you do it just as soon as you feel bad, those of you who are paying attention to space weather and Schumann resonance and all the stuff we talk about, like the last week, especially about 7 days ago, there was a couple of days that multiple people got in touch with me. It kicked people's asses, like really bad. So we're on, it's September 30th. So we're talking like back on, I think it was the 23rd and 24th. There was 2 particularly bad days that a lot of people got back to me and were like, what in the heck is going on? When I have people around me like Kelsey and Julie and me and my son and my buddy, the personal trainer, and they all pay attention to this stuff and we're all feeling it at the same time, something's going on, right? We don't all eat the same foods. We don't all have the same schedules. We don't all do the same stuff. It's something bigger that's affecting everybody. Actually, I do suggest you guys get a Schumann resonance app. So if you don't have the space weather stuff, Space Weather Live, that's a good free app. It's all like no spaces. It's Space Weather Live. I think it's on both types of phones. And then it doesn't have Schumann resonance. Schumann resonance apps, I think they're like $2 on the app stores. So look for the one that has the most reviews. That's the one that I got, I think, for my iPhone, and I'm never getting an iPhone again. I can't stand Apple. I tried an iPhone, never doing it again. Anyway, and Kelsey's saying it goes away even when they continue at the same dose. So again, is it a toxicity reaction? If let's say Steph was taking 1,000 milligrams for a long time and she got dry skin at the start, if she kept taking 1,000 milligrams, eventually the dry skin clears up. And I remember I had somebody else who was complaining about they started on the flesh niacin and it would give them, she called it her alligator skin, or like it made her skin a little scaly. It went away, just like Kelsey had observed and just as we're teaching you now. So the thing is when people are causing toxicity problems, it gets worse. If something is stimulating detox and people stay on it, or they reduce their dose so they can manage those symptoms of excessive detox, eventually it goes away. Okay, so O2 Anza did a super chat. Thank you. So now, if any of you guys want to do super chats and get in, we will do this now. O2 is asking, please, urgent help for hemorrhoids from Nigeria. Okay. Hemorrhoids, as I kind of went over in a previous episode, are varicose veins of the butt. That's really what they are. They are bulging veins of your butt. The very first thing that if this is like, I can't make a hemorrhoid go away quickly. Like, you're either looking at doing things to suppress the inflammation you can do things like charcoal poultices and other things to try to soak up the toxicity, but the problem is rooted in your liver. Congestion of your liver is putting back pressure on all the blood vessels below your liver, gravity. And it's blowing out some of the valves in those blood vessels. When we blow out those valves in our legs, we call them varicose veins. The tiny little valves, when they get blown out, are called spider veins. If you blow out valves in the blood vessels of your bum, those are called hemorrhoids. So, can't necessarily make those just go away. Like if you need urgent help with it, then, first of all, you need to try to, there's things that you can do. So if you're really constipated and you're straining a lot, well, the straining in a certain way, like think of it when you do the Valsalva maneuver and you contract your abdomen and you contract, like to push, that increases the pressure down there. So if you're having real constipation problems and you're really pushing a lot, you're going to want to figure out some things to do to help you poop easier. Now, I'm going to throw out some easy things that only the person who's going through this can figure out if this is a potential issue for them. First of all, if somebody's not drinking enough water. Now, you guys have heard me talk about it. I'm not a fan of like excessive hydration. So if you're peeing clear all the time, you're drinking too many fluids or you're getting too many fluids in your system. You want your pee to be light yellow to yellow. You don't want it dark and smelly. You don't want it clear or that like super duper light yellow. You don't want those. So if you're at any point, if you think you're not drinking enough water, you're going to make hard, crusty poop. And it's going to be harder to get out. Think of the water as like part of the lubrication of moving things out. So if you're not drinking enough water, that's an important thing. Then we get into things that can help. I mean, magnesium, oral magnesium you take by mouth. Any type can work if you take enough of it. Now, the ones that we tend to use for bowel movements are the ones that are not absorbed very well. Because the more you absorb of the magnesium, the more you have to take, because it's the magnesium staying in your guts that causes the osmotic diarrhea, basically the osmotic pooping. Pulling more water in there. Hey, pulling more water. So things that, magnesiums that are not absorbed well, magnesium oxide, magnesium hydroxide, magnesium citrate, these things can help you poop if you take enough. So they will give you diarrhea if you take enough. So you're trying to find the dose in there that's helping you poop without causing excessive diarrhea, because you don't want to dehydrate yourself. Then more potassium. Well, first of all, eat less vitamin A foods. You're saying from Nigeria, okay, some of the craziest vitamin A toxicity liver biopsy studies that I have are from African countries. 50% of the liver biopsies in several of these studies, way back from the 50s and 60s, 50% of the liver biopsies were vitamin A toxic by definition. These were autopsy studies, so necropsy. So the people had already died, and they analyzed their liver tissue, which is the gold standard of vitamin A toxicity. 50% of them had vitamin A toxicity in their liver in Africa in the 50s and 60s. And what is the world trying to do to Africa more? Have them eat liver, have them eat, fortified foods with vitamin A, give them supplements. This is why in a study in South Africa, 72% of the children in South Africa had vitamin A toxicity. I've gone over that paper. So Africa is like central location for vitamin A toxicity. So if you're eating, yams, sweet potatoes, orange, yellow, red, fruits and vegetables, dark green, if you're taking supplements of vitamin A, if you're eating foods fortified in vitamin A, that could be rice, that could be oil, palm oils fortified with it. It could be, you need to look at all the foods and the places that are fortified in your area with vitamin A and get rid of that crap. Dairy. Now Joe's wondering if there's any apps running that are slowing down things. I don't think so, Joe. Okay, I just closed some more windows. So yeah. Oh, here's another. Steph said before that she was continuing taking the same dose to get rid of the dry skin. And then she said also she put the zinc and niacin salve on her husband's poison ivy this morning, and he said it helped relieve the itching. I love that stuff. I put it on. We've had rain here in Tucson recently. It's kind of nice because it makes the hills all green, but also I have neighbors who aren't very good at getting rid of their standing water. And so we've had some more mosquitoes around the house. I got bit on my wrist last night, and I was going to bed, and I was like, I don't want to go to bed with an itchy wrist. So I put some of the zinc niacin salve that I still had from before on it. 10 minutes, itching's gone. We've had people say wasp stings get better like super quick with this. Poison ivy now. We've got just like, if you have skin stuff, the zinc niacin salve, which is sold out for right now as of September 30th, 2025. But like we've been working on it. We're working on getting it back ASAP because people love it. And so again, taking niacin, right? So if you got a bee sting or a wasp sting or poison ivy, those are toxins put into your skin. Your skin has a reaction against it. You put zinc and niacin salve on it, and it gets better because it's detoxing the toxins that were put into your skin, literally. Okay? So when you take an excess of flush niacin, and if somebody got dry skin or a little bit of eczema, you're detoxing your skin from the flush niacin. The flush niacin is running the detox in your skin. It's most likely breaking down vitamin A because you need NAD to run alcohol dehydrogenase, ADH, and you need NAD to run ALDH, aldehyde dehydrogenase. So you're running the detox process. You may have too many toxins in your skin, and so it dries out your skin. Okay. You can reduce the amount you're taking so you slow down the detox, or as people are saying, you can just push through as long as it's not too bad of symptoms. If you can deal with it, you can push through it and it will pass. Okay. So yeah, you can do, if you need to, like really bad hemorrhoids, if you need to do, some sort of hemorrhoid cream or something like that to calm it down short term, that's probably helpful. I mean, folks, if you have hemorrhoids and you're not using a bidet yet, like get a bidet. Like I'm going to tell you, there's nothing gay about a bidet. Bidets are amazing. Stop that. Somebody said on the internet, right? He's like, if you got poop on your hand, you would wash your hand with water. Like, why are we wiping with dry things back there? Like, get a bidet. The Tushy 2.0 is like 120 or 160 bucks if you want the heated version. If you're like a cold plunger, then you just don't get the heated version and you just go cold, baby. Anyway, sorry. Kelsey wants the warm one. I'm like, just cold's fine. Whatever. I don't care. So yeah. So Sarah's B, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I just want to make sure I say it. Red palm oil. This is what she said, or this is what they said. Red palm oil gave me floaters. I think you mean floaters in my eyes. Only ate it for 3 months, put me over the edge. That is when I started the Love Your Liver program. Folks, your eyes hate vitamin A. Let me go over one other thing that's detox that can happen with high doses of flush niacin, because it happened to me and it's happened to other people. If you are really toxic, and just remember, if you take flush niacin and you have issues from it, the more issues you have, or the sooner they show up, the more toxic you are. Oh, her name is Sarah. Okay. So thank you, Sarah. So the more you react to niacin, the more toxic you are. If you go and you do toxins while you're taking flush niacin, if you're doing high doses of flush niacin and you purposely take toxins, like let's say you go and you drink alcohol, or you smoke a lot of weed, or you take pharmaceutical medications, there's more likely that you're going to have some type of side effect from the niacin, because you are intoxing while you are trying to detox. That's not a good combo. You don't want to put toxins in purposely while you are trying to get them out purposely. That just confuses the whole issue. So some people, when they start taking high doses of flush niacin, they might get a little bit of eye issue, where like what I had was, I would actually see the little, not halos, but it was at bright lights at night, I would see the little sparkly light rays around the lights, if you know what I mean. I don't know the technical term for that. And well, here's the funny thing with Kelsey knowing all that she does about doing this. Kelsey had told me about this whole, like, Kelsey and I were not dating at the time. I was out dating, and, dating, sometimes you do things that you normally wouldn't do, let's say toxin wise. And I did that, and I was taking the high dose niacin, and all of a sudden I got this eye thing. And I brought it up to Kelsey, and she's like, yeah, I told you not to do that. I was like, I know. And I knew what she suggested to do, which was to reduce your dose she said, it'll go away in about a month. Reduce your dose. I can't remember if she said to reduce it by 3/4 or by a half. I think she said reduce it by half, and I think I reduced it by 3/4, because I was just like, I'm going to be safe. I want this to go away, so I'm going to take it down by 3/4. And what do you know? Just like Kelsey told me, it went away in a month and it's never come back. I also stopped dating, and now I'm with Kelsey, so that helped fix things too. So anyway, so these things are detox. So if you don't want to have the excessive detox symptoms, even though they're short term, don't megadose yet unless you get there and you feel better. Okay. So yeah, another thing. So Alicia Adams says down there, she said, I started niacin. I'm assuming you mean flesh niacin. I had temporary blurred vision about 20 minutes after. It wasn't anything I couldn't get through. It's gotten better each time. So, okay. You understand, folks? This is a detox reaction. So whatever's happening in her eyes, like detox is a dirty job. You're sending stuff in to clean up the mess. You know, garbage men, when they go home, they stink because they've been touching garbage all day and being around garbage. Like they're toxic, right? Because of what they work with. So if you're going and cleaning stuff out of your eyes, it's a dirty job. So if she's saying it's getting better each time, does it make sense that she's cleaning stuff out of her eyes each time? And it's getting less each time because there's less crap to clean up. This is why I wanted to do this episode. Well, partially I needed a topic for this week, and this just kind of popped up, and I was like, somebody sent me that one where they group all the niacin together, and I thought, well, let me do this one. So I wanted to do it, and now we're getting to go over, like, you must know there is a difference between nicotinic acid, flesh niacin, and all the other crap out there, which is mostly niacinamide. Even the sustained release niacin, the sustained release nicotinic acid pharmaceutical stuff, and the inositol hexaniacinate, we don't want to use that. Do you have to flush? If you take flesh niacin, do you have to flush? No. Here's the important idea with flesh niacin. It's doing what it does. So like as an example, let me remind people of this. Studies done on schizophrenics with flesh niacin. Schizophrenics were taking like 3,000 milligrams, 3 grams a day from the start. Like they jumped in at 3,000 milligrams. They didn't flush. They started noticing that this was a pattern with schizophrenics. And after they took the 3,000 milligrams for long enough, then they would start to flush. What do we think was happening? And their schizophrenia got a lot better. Like some of them would use the C word, the cure word about it. What was going on? Why weren't they flushing? The idea is that the flesh niacin, once it was in their system, was being used up in their brain, not in their skin. Because, I mean, they got schizophrenia. So they need it up here, not so much in their skin. So it was doing everything in your brain. You don't flush in your brain, right? There's no flush receptors that you feel. You don't feel pain in your brain. You can feel headaches, but that's not necessarily from your brain itself. So what they did was after a while, after they detoxed enough in their brain, the nicotinic acid, the flesh niacin, could go elsewhere and then start detoxing their skin, and then they would get the flush. Okay? So just because you're not flushing in your skin doesn't mean that the flesh niacin isn't doing its work elsewhere. Does that make sense? It's still doing its work. We do not chase the flush. This is the saying. We do not chase the flush. We also don't avoid the flush. Does that make sense? So don't, if the flush is really strong for you, that means that your skin has a lot of toxicity in it. That's what that means. Some people, to get out of that, may need to take more. Once you know the flush, there's only so much of a flush you can have. There's a peak flush intensity. Most of the time, if you're having a really strong flush already, it's not going to get much more than that ever. But if you need to clear out, if you're flushing really, really hard every day, it means that your body is refilling that toxicity in your skin daily. And if you want to get past that, somebody might need to take more flesh niacin so they can get ahead of what's happening in their skin. To get it's crazy. It sounds weird, but taking more flesh niacin is the way to get your flushing response to be less. Like when I was taking 20 grams of flesh niacin a day, I had no flush. 15 grams a day, no flush, nothing. Because it cleaned out everything every day. There was nothing left for me to feel in my skin that registered as a flush. So if you're really suffering from the flush and you're really taking a low dose, if you want that flush to get better, you actually might need to go up. Okay. Which is why we're working on, so we have the 25 milligram pills. We're working on a 100 milligram pill now. There will be the 500 milligram pill. And then I'm working on a powder. We're going to call them, the ones that are buffered, we're going to call them Niasoda after Kelsey's old Etsy store products. So we're going to, and then we'll work on the other ones that she had, the other Niasodas, the charcoal Niasoda and the lemon flavored Niasoda and all that stuff. So, okay. Okay, so let me get to these other super chats. Let me see. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you, O2 Anza. I hope I gave you something to work with. But like, if you need immediate help, like you may be looking at some sort of surgery or laser or whatever. But if you're doing natural stuff first, you got to get off the vitamin A. So and I would join the Love Your Liver program to get started on all that stuff. And it's not a quick fix. Okay. So, Joseph J. Wow, we're getting lots of super chats now. Is niacin okay for someone with rosacea? Yes. Now, I mean, niacin, there's really nobody that flush. I mean, the only thing about flush niacin. So think about this. There's the flush, which is really just like for most people, flush niacin can be like it's like that stupid CrossFit saying, it doesn't have to be fun to be fun. Like if you take flush niacin, you're like, I hate the flush. I'm going to tell you right now, like Kelsey loves the flush. I don't really like it that much. I don't enjoy it. I actually find that when I'm flushing, I get a little grumpy and I'm a little tired for a certain period of time after it. But I feel better all the other time of the day. So I'm willing to do, it doesn't have to be fun to be fun. Like it doesn't have to feel great at the time to feel great the rest of the time. Like a lot of us, a lot of people out there, they don't like the feel of exercising. Like, I don't like this. This sucks. But then they like having more energy. They like having, a more fit body. They like sleeping better. They like being less depressed. They like everything that exercise gives them. But they don't like the exercise. That's fine. You don't have to love it to get the benefits of it. So flush niacin is kind of like that. Now with a skin issue like rosacea, when you do the flush, it might aggravate it a little bit. Like it might, obviously it's going to make it red and you're going to put a lot of blood flow into that area. So I would suggest, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to start very slow, which was probably the best of all the things. So if you follow that kind of Gulf War vet sauna, flush niacin study approach, folks, you can do this. And always remember, if you stop taking flush niacin for a day or two or three, and you come back to it, you're going to flush hard again. So if you're at the point where you're going, I'm not flushing anymore, and then you go back and you skip days or you take a month off or a year off and you go and you take it and you're like, oh yeah, I'm fine with the flush. And you take it again after a time off, you're going to flush hard. Whatever happened probably to you before is going to come back unless you've been doing, Love Your Liver and all that stuff in the meantime, and you're getting less and less toxic. So realize that. So if you got rosacea, you're probably still quite vitamin A toxic in the skin. So if the idea here would be if you start with flush niacin a certain dose and you flush and the flush intensity stays the same until it finally gets less and you're doing it daily. When the flush intensity gets less, this is what they did in the Gulf War study. When the flush intensity gets less, that is when you increase your dose. That's it. So when you see the flush either disappear or decrease in intensity, that's when you can go up. Now, the only other thing about taking flush niacin is really, really good for those of you who understand toxic bile paradigm. If you don't understand toxic bile paradigm, go watch episodes 71 and 53 on this channel so you can understand toxic bile. Flush niacin does a lot of detox. The problem is when you start doing a lot of detox, you may start increasing your bile production, your bile dumping. So you have to separate the flush intensity, which is temporary, from if you're taking more flush niacin than your body likes and you're dumping too much bile, which is aggravating symptoms over the longer term, then you just need to do less. Usually we cut like I said, we cut the dose in half first, and then we cut it in a quarter. Remember, this is long term. This is not a weekend detox or a month-long cleanse. This is like long-term. So don't try to push too hard at the start and kick your own butt and then go, I don't want to do this. I don't feel good doing this. And this is not just for you, Joseph. This is like for anybody. I mean, if somebody goes into the gym and they look at the strongest guy in the gym and they go, I'm going to lift what he lifts, and they start doing it and they break themselves. And then they go, screw lifting. This sucks. It hurt me. No. What you did in the gym hurt you. You made bad decisions in the gym. So if you're going to make bad decisions about lactoferrin or flush niacin, or maybe you react badly to zinc and you keep taking high doses and then you try to blame the supplement or even the diet, like let's say you're eating way too much soluble fiber for yourself and you're pushing too hard and you feel bad, it's not the supplement or the diet, it's how you're doing it, right? We have people, honestly, who are doing like a carnivore, like all muscle meat carnivore, plus adding some fiber or some other binder, like charcoal or zeolite. So they're doing like, they're not doing what most people would think of as the Love Your Liver program, but because we give people a framework to work within and getting enough protein and then getting a binder to help you get rid of that toxic bile, those are like two of the most foundational things. If they do that, they're doing a low vitamin A diet. They're doing stuff to get the bile out of them. They're getting enough protein and nutrients and calories. Totally works. So with rosacea, you definitely, flush niacin, I would do it. Yes. I haven't looked into rosacea and flush niacin in the research. I don't know if Kelsey has anything, but there might be something. I did a whole episode on acne. Joe, I don't remember which one that was. I think it's 112 maybe. Anyway, a whole episode on acne. And there was actually a paper that said like acne is a form of pellagra, niacin deficiency. So I had a guy on Twitter send me a DM the other day. He's like, I'm all muscle meat carnivore and I eat butter. And I think he was doing charcoal. And he's like, why do I still have acne? And I sent him my acne live stream because I was like, probably want to get on some flush niacin and get rid of that butter. Vitamin A toxicity from butter and a lack of niacin. And therefore you got acne and possibly a zinc deficiency. So I would, if you haven't, I'm trying to think of the episodes I did my psoriasis episode, the study, Joe, if you were looking up the NEJM study on psoriasis, there's that one. That's obviously a skin centered one. And then there's the acne one, which I think was 112, but we use the same principles. Actually, somebody asked me today, like, what do I do about thyroid nodules? If you guys ask me about any specific condition, we do not have condition protocols. We have concepts and principles that you apply for your situation. So Joe just put up the acne link. 122. Sorry, I thought it was 112. It's 122. I had the 1 and the 2 right. I missed the middle one. So there's that. So yeah, I think niacin would be helpful with rosacea over time. Just don't overdo it. And realize that you may feel a lot of sensation in those spots during it because that's where the toxicity is centered. So just don't be surprised at that. Actually, one of the cool things that I'll tell you guys this, I do specific things like when I take my flush niacin and I feel the flush and I feel it in my head. That's actually when I try to do some of these techniques because I know that the blood flow is increased up there. So you can use that as a way to benefit treatments. And I'll talk about that in the hair program. So, okay, next one. Tur Page says, very itchy skin after shower for 30 minutes, all over the body. Tested water in 4 places, itchy everywhere. Low vitamin A for 1 year, started recently. Okay, first of all, folks, now I don't know what you're doing, Tur, in terms of your water temperature. Folks, heat will cause bile dumping. Heat will cause bile dumping. Bile dumping can then leak into your system. You have the toxic concentrated bile. That's the bile is the way your liver would love to dump toxins out through your poop. But what we deal with here in toxic bile paradigm is you can reabsorb that into your system and then it causes problems. And Itching is a classic cholestasis, which means toxic leaky bile into your blood symptom. So first of all, ladies especially, and men too, but if you take really hot showers, like let's say you're kind of hypothyroid, you know, your body temperature runs low, you're always cold. Now just remember, your body temperature is not the same as how you feel. So you could have people who feel really hot with a low body temperature and vice versa. But if you're the type, whether Tur or anybody else, if you guys take really hot showers and then you get symptoms afterwards, whether you get really tired or whether you get itching or whatever, you may just be causing a bile dump from the heat. Heat moves things in your body. We're warm-blooded. You put more heat into the system, chemical reactions happen faster. So you start pushing the heat button and you can push things too hard. So ladies, if you have a man and your man is like, oh my God, you're burning my skin off with this shower temperature, you may be causing yourself, ladies, you may feel better because you're warmer temporarily, but you may be causing a lot of bile dumping that is then causing you problems later. Remember, you can help one disease while you create another. This is always really, really important. Like, what do you think pharmaceuticals do? Pharmaceuticals help one symptom while they create a whole nother set of problems. Okay. So could it be something in your water? So let's go. Could it be something in your water, Tur? Yeah. The best way to do this would be to get like some distilled water or some reverse osmosis water. And folks, you can do this if you have any suspicion that your shower water or your bath water is causing you problems, or you just want to know. Get really clean water. And when I mean really clean water, I mean distilled water or like reverse osmosis. You're going to have a pot, right? You're going to have someplace you can stand. You're going to basically give yourself a sponge bath. Standing, you're not in the water. You're using a wet sponge to clean your, wet your body, put some soap on wherever you decide to, clean that off with the wet sponge. You could stand in your tub so you don't make a watery mess everywhere and you don't have to stand outside in the dirt. And you use really clean water and your soap. And so obviously it's not going to be hot. I mean, you could do hot water as the sponge bath. That's fine. And it's not going to be as hot because it's not like as much water as the shower puts out, and it won't be that hot either. So then you can see, especially folks, if ladies especially, but if you take a shower and you don't feel right afterwards, maybe you feel anxious after you get out of the shower. I started learning about copper toxicity way back. I had a guy who would tell me, he's like, to try to help my sleep, he's like, I would take a hot tub. I'd get in the hot tub for 20 or 30 minutes before bed because I thought it would help me sleep. And he's like, when I get out of the hot tub, like I have heart palpitations and I can't sleep for hours. But he kept doing it, which I was kind of like, why are you still doing this? Like, if you observe these problems, why are you still doing it? But then I said, do you put any copper sulfate in your hot tub? And he goes, yeah, I use it it's an anti-mold or what, I forget what they use. I'm pretty sure it's an anti-mold and an antibacterial. It's an anti-pathogen for the hot tubs. And just so if any of you ever got the green hair from swimming in pools and they said it was the chlorine, it wasn't the chlorine, it's copper. You had that much copper in your hair that it was changing the color of your hair. Okay. Copper has those two colors, right? It has the greenish copper and the bluish copper. So doing that sponge bath, do you have to do it forever? No, but you can figure out if your shower or your bath water is causing you problems, whether it's the warmth of it or whether it's the toxins in it. So those are the two things that I would look into. I hope that helps a bunch of people with that. The hot shower thing, folks, you can really, like, we had a woman in the live chat, quite a few episodes ago, but she was saying they kept giving her more and more iron pills because they couldn't bring her iron up. And then she went and one day she got in the hot tub and I don't know if it was in the hot tub or right after the hot tub, she had a heart attack. But I was talking to her and I said, when this heart attack happened, were you doing something different, like during it or before? And she goes, oh yeah, I was in the hot tub. Heat causes bile dumping. Eating causes bile dumping. They'll talk about heart attacks happening after people eat too much food, right? People do really hot stuff and then they can have heart issues because you dump the bile and then it affects your heart. So just be aware that really hot stuff, sun, sweating, heat, increases your bile dumping. If you feel bad after any of those, do less. You can still do them. Like, we still need sun, but like I had somebody say they couldn't go out in the sun or they'd get blisters and all this stuff after a certain amount of time. I said, well, you're doing way too much then. Do less. It's really that simple. So, but the cleanliness of the water, like I've gone over papers before where they were showing people getting copper toxicity in Britain from their copper pipes. So like toxins in your water is a real thing. And a lot of people don't have copper pipes in their house per se. They might have the PEX, I think it is. But everybody has copper water pipes going in and out of their water heater because they have to handle that heat. So yeah. Okay, we need to no more super chats. Any more super chats submitted after now are going to wait until next week. We'll hang on to them. But yeah, I can't keep having stuff. Thank you so much for all the super chats. Don't get me wrong. I gotta end this at some point. Okay, so I hope that helps, Tara. Oh gosh. Okay, so yeah, Shanjak or Shanyak, I don't know how to say that, but anyway, he said, I noticed the niacin flush can be guided by localized heating. Use an 805 nanometer LED security lamp to flush specific areas. Yes. Absolutely. You can kind of, I don't know if it's guiding the flush. Like I can tell you, like, you know how I said earlier, like when I'm flushing, I get a little grumpy, which detox, toxins cause grumpiness. Well, if I'm detoxing a bunch of them, as we say, a poison on the way in, a poison on the way out. So if I'm detoxing a bunch of toxins, yeah, it might affect my mood and then that goes away. That's a detox. Okay. So here in Tucson, where it can, in the summer, 100, 105, 110, can go over that at times, especially if you get in your hot car. Doing the flush and going outside in that heat, that's one of those things where I think about it and I'm like, oh, I cannot stand that. It's nice. Those of you who live in colder weather places, you do the flush and you go outside and you're like, oh, this feels like awesome. So just know, but yeah, the sensation of heat, if you do something where it increases the heat in an area, like a security lamp or a red light or one of those, like a lot of acupuncturists have them, those little infrared heat lamps, or if you do the sauna, obviously, right? People are doing the sauna, you can feel more heat and you could kind of guide it to another place. I've made Kelsey, as I was saying earlier, Kelsey's hair spray, which has flush niacin in it. And this is one thing I really like doing is I do the flush and then I spray that on my hair because there's studies on nicotinates helping with hair regrowth. Imagine flush niacin helping with yet another thing, hair regrowth, which involves blood flow. Hair loss is definitely restricted to a lack of blood flow. And then the lack of blood flow means the nerves leave because you can't have nerves where there's no blood flow. And then you lose your hair in that area over time. So then nicotinate helps with that. And what does flush niacin do? It increases angiogenesis and blood flow, like new blood vessels and more blood flow, and it opens up the blood vessels. So I actually spray it on there and then I can feel the flush more on my head, which the point of it is to bring more blood up there because that is how you get it back. That's part of it. So, yeah. But yeah, you could kind of, if you had an area you wanted to work on with the flush niacin, if you somehow add some warmth to that area, you will feel the flush more in that area. That's why, like, when I go outside in the heat, like, it's all over me. And so I already don't really love the flush, but then all of a sudden it's more flush all over. Oh, and then the chill. So if those of you who start on the flush niacin in the early times, you may get a little chill after the heat flush kind of goes away. That's normal. So if you're out in the cold, when you get those chills, that's really not going to feel very fun. So just be aware of that. But that goes away over time. The chills goes away. So that's probably some sort of toxicity reaction too. Okay. Stacy asked, thank you for the super chat. Tur and oh wait, CEW. Let me get to. I'm going down the order that I see them here in the chat. CEW says, I keep hearing a ton about glutathione and NAD plus. Can you help me understand why we don't use these on LYL? Thank you. Okay. Glutathione is made by your body. You don't really eat it. What we do is we are trying to, so your body has an antioxidant balance and an oxidant, the redox balance, reduction oxidation. So if you think of it as oxidation as one side, if you think of reduction as antioxidant side. So there's just, if we just think oxidants and antioxidants, that's really what we're talking about, okay? Glutathione is your body's most powerful antioxidant. There are other oxidizing agents that we talk about here, but we try not to say them. Things like the three letters that are unmentionable, or things, including borine trioxide that I can't mention on here. So those are oxidizers. Too much oxidation over time, like let's say if people were taking oxidizing agents on a daily basis every day for years, they could push themselves towards too much oxidation. People who are taking megadoses of plant antioxidants or taking glutathione for a long time can push themselves into too much antioxidant. Our whole goal, this is the important thing, we are trying to restore the body's ability to regulate this itself. That's our goal. So if glutathione is made by the body, we want to let the body make it. We want to facilitate reducing the toxicities and improving the nutrient status. One of the big things that's used to make glutathione involves glutamate. Wow, wait. So instead of taking a synthesized glutathione, why don't we give our body glutamate so it could make it on its own? See what I mean? NAD plus. You want NAD plus. NAD, as I'm just going to call it. You want that inside your cells. Taking NAD supplement-wise or pumping it into your blood vessels doesn't mean it's in the cell. It's actually outside the cell. Your body can take nicotinic acid inside the cell and make NAD, where it's supposed to happen. NAD supplements and IVs are super duper expensive. Flush niacin makes more NAD than anything else. It's more efficient, it's more effective, and it's cheaper than anything else. But then people, we don't like to flush. Oh, okay, whatever. You can take less effective, more expensive things because to flush is too intense. Like, sometimes people, I'm gonna mock it a little bit because some people are just big babies about it. Either take less or take more. That's how you get out of, if you're at a flush that you don't like, you're either going to fix it by taking less or you're going to fix it by taking more. Your choice. But you can't get around that. And glutathione, okay, so let's say somebody takes, everybody's talking about Tylenol these days, acetaminophen, APAP, paracetamol. What does that do to your liver? Well, you make your liver enzymes, you take it enough and you get liver damage and your liver enzymes go up. What does your liver enzymes going up mean? Well, and they say it can kill you. They say that the way that acetaminophen, Tylenol, paracetamol, APAP kills you is by sucking out all your glutathione. It's all used up. And they'll give NAC, N-acetylcysteine, as a remedy to fix it. But what happens before that? The chronic people who are taking acetaminophen all the time, it depletes glutathione, and you see the liver enzymes go up. You see AST go up. You see ALT go up. You see GGT go up. What do all of those enzymes, liver markers, right? What do they make? They make glutamate. I went over this in the MSG episode. We just saw earlier where somebody was saying the MSG fixed their cracked heels, which is a mark of toxicity. So glutamate is part of the whole glutathione process. When we deplete glutathione, like let's say with acetaminophen, we see the liver enzymes go up, which means the liver is trying to pull resources to make more glutamate. So probably getting more glutamate in your system is going to be the best way to give your body what it needs to be able to make the glutathione that it decides to. So again, I'm not a huge fan of people taking, like when they say glutathione is, you got to think of this. If glutathione is first of all, let me go back. In naturopathic medical school, glutathione by far was the most hyped yet underperforming supplement or IV that I've ever seen. The most overhyped, lowest performing. And then you got to take the reduced glutathione because it doesn't get through your stomach either way, but then the IVs, and I tried it in practice with the reduced glutathione. It's super expensive. Didn't do jack squat. I didn't feel anything with it. I didn't see enough clients feel anything with it. And then if you're going to take the most powerful antioxidant in the entire body, that's powerful for better or worse. For better or worse. You start playing with big caliber guns, and yeah, you could destroy something that you want to destroy better, but you could also hurt things that you don't want to hurt more. Right? Same thing with oxidizing agents. Folks, you don't want to take oxidizers every day for the rest of your life. They're not a freaking multivitamin. You don't want to try to take too many acids all the time. You don't want to take too much alkalizing stuff all the time. You want to, as much as you can, give your body control over these things. That's our goal. That's why we don't take these like super strong. And if people are going to take, let's say, that boron trioxide that we talked about, you're taking it for a specific issue. And then when that issue is gone, you stop taking it. Okay? That's how you avoid these long-term problems. The problem, like I've seen about boron trioxide testimonials on, let's say, well, I can't say the letters, but there's a testimonials page. If you search for those 3 letters and testimonials, you'll probably find the page. But there's people who would, let's say, use this oxidizing agent, this boron trioxide, for something like cancer. And the cancer goes away. And then a couple of years later, they say, oh, well, I got cancer in another area and I use it again and it worked again. Okay, so imagine that this could keep happening over and over. Why would it keep happening? Because their diet's still super toxic. They're still super toxic. They're probably still eating healthy foods, which is tons of vitamin A and copper, and they keep making more of these toxin storage tissues, which then they can use an oxidizing agent to help break down the toxins better. So one problem goes away, then they can stop taking it. But the root cause of why that happened in the first place is still there, and eventually it builds up again, and then they have another problem that they have to use it for. It's awesome that it works, but we would rather not have to keep redoing it, because we want to fix the root cause. So I hope that helps. Could you use those things? You can try them. Like I said, glutathione is like the most overhyped and underperforming supplement I've ever seen. And NAD+, I hear people talk about it all the time. Again, they're doing IVs of it. Just flush, okay, so we're talking about NAD+ and glutathione here. Well, how about you just use flush niacin and MSG? Then you're getting your body to do the work that it needs to and decide how much you're going to make. Not some alternative practitioner who's happy for you to pay $200 for an IV, and you walk out of there and you're like, I don't feel anything, and you can't, maybe you don't have enough money to do them as often as they want. And then as soon as you stop doing them, well, most of the time they're not dealing with the root cause, and then the problem comes back. So we would address the glutathione issue with obviously meat, which has cysteine in it, which is considered one of the rate limiting things of glutathione production, but also MSG. And then the NAD+, we use the most effective NAD booster out there, which is flush niacin. So there you go. Okay. Ooh, wait. So Stacy asks so no more super chats, please, folks. How to help with night blindness and light sensitivity. Sudden onset after a week of 50 micrograms L-selenomethionine and not going away weeks later since stopping. Some improvements from R5P, but not 100%. Okay. First, these things, okay. So I would definitely, just because of your suspicion, okay, folks, you can have a negative response to anything you take. Okay. That doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. It means it may be a detox thing that goes too fast. We don't know until afterwards. Okay. So night blindness and light sensitivity. These are absolute vitamin A toxicity symptoms. So what would I tend to look at first? First of all, you may be quite toxic. You may be unable to start certain mineral supplements. And if you ever start, like this is why I have people take, when they add a new mineral supplement or they change the dose of a mineral supplement, I have them do that for a week to assess if they get along with it. Usually after a week of taking a certain dose of a mineral, if you haven't had issues by then, you're not going to have them. Okay. So with this sudden onset of selenomethionine, here's the other thing. It can be, was it the selenomethionine, which I don't generally use that much anymore. We use the selenium glycinate. But could it have been the selenium? Sure. I've had people have, I had one gentleman, when he'd start the zinc, he'd say he got tired and hair started falling. Not crazy tons, but he noticed it. Okay, so zinc didn't work. Then he tried it with selenium. The same thing happened. Then he tried it with molybdenum. Same thing happened. I said, you're not ready for this stuff yet. Don't take it. Okay, now we know this. And you need to be extra aware in the future that if this happens again, whatever you started taking or started doing, you need to stop it and back off. Anybody can have any reaction to anything at any time. Okay. Now that also doesn't mean, so if that sudden onset a week after starting the selenium, does that mean that it was the selenium that did it? Not necessarily. It could have just been a coincidental timing. So we always have to keep these. This is why I'm the nutrition detective, is we have to keep these things in mind. So unless, let's say, Stacy, if this got better and you tried taking the selenomethionine again and it happened again, then we would know for sure that it was that. But until then, it could have just been okay, so that space weather that I was talking about, or the Schumann or whatever, about a week ago, we had people, I had some symptoms that weird, that were not my normal bile dumping pattern symptoms. They came and they went, and I was kind of like, what in the heck? I had another guy tell me, he's like, my GERD has been insane. And it was just those couple of days, and then it went away. So this is where, again, it could be some sort of detox. It could be space weather. It could be whatever. Now, if we're talking weeks later, so we're at weeks later without stopping. So if this was a selenium issue and you had only taken a week of it at 50 micrograms, it's hard for me to think that was it. What you may be entering is a detox phase of whatever's coming out. Grant Genereux said he took lutein. I don't know why he did that, but he took a lutein and zeaxanthin supplement, and all of a sudden his his vision was yellow, he said, for months after that. He literally took a little bit of lutein, it stored in his tissues, and then his eyesight, his vision was yellow for months after that. That's on his blog. So could it be just some sort of detox? Sure. Could it be the selenium? Possibly. If you wanted to try selenium in the future, you might just try some Brazil nuts, 5 to 10 a day. But be careful of relying on Brazil nuts for too long, because they don't have as much selenium in them as they used to. People cannot rely on them anymore. They do not have what they used to, because they keep regrowing them in the same areas, and they're not fertilizing the ground with selenium. So the more people eat Brazil nuts from those forests in Brazil over and over. The trees sucked all the selenium out of the soil and put it into the Brazil nuts. And then once the soil is empty, then the Brazil nuts are going to be empty too. So I'm just saying, like, I wish Brazil nuts were a good source these days, but they're not reliable. Okay. When I start seeing eye stuff, I think, like, could you just, okay, first of all, you want to think about, could you just be pushing detox too hard? Yeah. Could you just be pushing it too darn hard? Too much soluble fiber, as we talked about before, sun, sweating, heat, exercise, stress of any type. Could these cause too much detox and cause a symptom? Yes. Like I said about the flush niacin thing, when I took too much of it, I got those rings around the lights at night, and it lasted for a month. But I haven't had it ever since. So could this be like a detox that's just a timing thing? Sure. Could you be pushing it too hard? Sure. I tend to think of with eye things, I think, first of all, make sure you're getting enough protein. Women in general, when they do this, they think they're like, oh, I'm eating meat like twice a day, and I have them total it up, and they're still not even getting 50 grams of total protein a day because their meat serving is like miniature. So minimum, folks, I'm not saying that this is optimal. Minimum of 50 grams total protein a day. Like, that's what the World Health Organization says for like third world countries to avoid protein malnutrition. 50 grams of total protein a day. Some people will say like, oh, I get that with breakfast. That's cool. But some, especially Western country, especially women, especially small women, they're all of a sudden like, wait, I don't even get that much a day. And I'm like, well, that's why you don't feel good. Like, you need protein to build things and to make things and to run things. So protein would be first. When I think eye problems, I think protein. I also think zinc. So zinc is very, very important. Now, I also think of flush niacin, right? So I talked about how flush niacin caused a detox in my eyes. It helps detox the eyes. And then the last thing I would tend to think of that's worth a try for people. Now, when I say this, I'm going to say it carefully. Taurine. Taurine can help eye issues. And I remember how I told you earlier, taurine can bind, literally, look up a paper that says taurine adduct retinaldehyde. Adduct means it binds to. Taurine adduct retinaldehyde. Taurine binds to some of the vitamin A in your eyes, and this is why taurine has a lot of research on it showing it helps with eye stuff. Now, the thing about taurine is some people might take it and their eye stuff seems better. Some people might take it and their eye stuff seems worse. Do you know which you're going to get until you try it? No. Maximum long-term safe dose of taurine in the research is 3 grams a day. Other studies have gone higher than that, but what is in the research saying long-term safe dose is 3 grams a day. What I'm also going to tell you is if you start doing taurine long-term and it helps your eyes, and you're doing the Love Your Liver program correctly, at some point, the taurine is going to aggravate your eye issues again because you don't need it anymore. And now it's causing problems. So the taurine is like a Band-Aid. It's like a symptomatic Band-Aid that helps for a while. It does help change your bile recipe, but I've talked about this before. Like taurine, so if you have a bad bile recipe now, bad bile composition, and you add taurine to it, and it makes the composition, the recipe better, and your symptoms look better. Well, if you're doing the Love Your Liver program right, over time, your bile recipe should improve on its own. And then you're still adding the taurine to it, which can then turn a good recipe bad. And then all you have to do at that point is you take out the taurine, and then your issue is good again. So I call it turning on people. Like taurine can help people in the beginning sometimes, but it also turns on people over time. So I'm warning you, like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, the taurine can help. Thiamin HCl can help people with like neuropathy in the beginning. And then over time, they don't need it anymore. So the things that we don't tend to use on a regular basis are what we call either antidotes or band-aids, symptom fixers. They can help, and we're not against them. You just, and then some people won't use them because they're like, I don't want to use a band-aid or a crutch or a symptom fixer. I won't do that. And we're like, okay, then you get to wait for your relief. Okay. Some people use them and then they don't pay attention to me saying these things can turn on you over time because we're fixing the underlying issue. And then, okay, antidotes that you don't need are not good for you. What a lot of people do, right? They take tons of supplements thinking that, oh, I don't want to get this health issue. Oh, I don't want to get this health issue. So I'm going to take these supplements before I have the issue so I don't get the issue. And then all of a sudden they start feeling like crap over time. And then they hopefully, luckily, maybe they come across me. Maybe they decide to stop taking it. They run out of it. And they're like, I feel better now without it. Antidotes for toxicities that you don't have are actually not good for you. You can look up snake venom. Antivenin. Antivenin has tons of side effects. Antidotes cause their own problems. So like people taking, let's say, tons of niacinamide for, they're not deficient and they're taking tons of this niacin salvage recycle product and they don't need it. It can cause problems. Nicotinic acid gets processed in a totally different way and it doesn't build up, and it actually helps the recycle and salvage pathway work better. So this is why we got to understand these things. This is not easy, but those are what I'd work for. If the R5P is helping, riboflavin 5-phosphate, if that's helping, that's fine. I would not plan on doing that forever. Like, you got to think about riboflavin. What color is it? It's yellow. When you take riboflavin, what happens to your pee like 10 minutes later? It's like bright yellow, almost fluorescent yellow. Do you think your body really wants that if it's peeing it out so quickly and so aggressively? You got to think about that. Like when you think of the B complex smell, it's mainly riboflavin. So it's got a lot of smell, comes out in your pee like crazy, very, very quickly, and it's yellow. So R5P can be an antidote. Yes. Over time, as you don't need it, you want to phase it out. So could you be antidoting some sort of toxicity that's going on right now where you're saying some improvements from R5P, but not 100%? You may be antidoting something that's stirred up. Okay. So that's that. Sergio Homoni, thank you for the super chat. Wait, let me get this back up on the screen so I can like these things. Okay, so we did Stacy's. Sergio says, Doc, I'm a skinny type or an under type, as I call it. Since starting the program, I've been putting on some weight. I eat only 7 foods that are low vitamin A. Is it a good or bad? Love you. Well, thank you. Sergio is a big fan. If it's good weight, if you're okay, so we have seen this. So under types, I call them under types. It's a pattern. There's more to it than just skinny or overweight. But underweight people who have real trouble gaining weight, over time, as we fix the liver, they can start gaining good weight. So it's kind of like a spectrum. So Sergio, unless it's bad weight, one of two things. If you're eating an obscene amount of food, like a lot of you underweight folks, to keep weight on, you're eating like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 calories a day just to like gain a pound or two. I'm not a fan of doing that. Like if your weight will stay stable on less calories, remember everything you put in your mouth has to go through your liver. So if you're putting an extra 2,000 calories down your cake hole every day just to gain a pound or two, that's tons of stress on your liver. And underweight types have, I mean this in just like the reality way, underweight types have the most damaged livers. It's actually been shown. Longevity, when they look at longevity and mortality of people, like everybody talks about obesity causing people to die sooner than they should. But the research actually shows that the chronically underweight people actually die sooner than them. Okay, we all know these chronically underweight people we know they're really, really sick, but they're skinny. Okay, it's not always a good thing, right? So it kind of goes like this. So think of normal weight and healthy. And then we go to overweight. And then we go over here to underweight. So if we are returning people to health, the underweight people are going to gain weight. Does that mean they're going to get overweight? No, we don't believe in healing pounds here. And then they can go back to normal. So the gaining weight, if you are gaining good weight and you're not forcing tons of extra calories. And first of all, if you're eating more calories than you think you need to as an undertype, you're just giving your liver more work. If you've been eating more calories than you necessarily need to, and you're gaining weight now, first of all, you could probably reduce what's coming in and just see if you start gaining weight in a good way with like a normal amount of calories, because that's normally what we see. So it is normal for underweight people to gain good weight as their liver is healing. And then they keep it on. They don't have to eat tons of food. So that's basically, that's that. As long as it's not bad weight, then I'm not concerned about it. If it's good weight and the scale's just going up and you're getting healthier, then that's what we want to see. Okay. Okay. So Sergio sent another super chat. Thank you. Any advice for mental focusing issues? What helps? Well, my personal experience, what I noticed, my biggest one was lactoferrin. I noticed when we ran out of lactoferrin, which was very sad for a while, I noticed over time my mood was not as good and I did not get as much work done. I didn't focus as well doing my work. Got the lactoferrin back to normal, or back to what I thought was normal. I only noticed that I wasn't normal when I wasn't taking it. So there's that. I would, the big things, obviously you're detoxing. Potassium helps with, I think of, depression and mental stuff as fatigue of the brain. So potassium really helps with energy production. So I make sure you're getting plenty of potassium. Flush niacin and MSG are great for that. We're seeing people with mental stuff that is getting a lot better with MSG. Now, we talked about in that MSG episode, like up to 2 to 3 teaspoons a day was what some people went up to. It seems that past 2 or 3 teaspoons a day total, there's like diminishing returns. So you don't get that much more with it. But folks, if you're trying MSG and you're just sprinkling it on your food some and it tastes better, that's great. Is it helping you? Most likely, very much yes. However, if you want to use more, you can. Always take it with food. If you're having it if you don't want to put it on your food and you want to put it in something to drink, have that with your protein food. Like, you don't have to take it on your food. You don't have to put a spoonful of it in your mouth. You can put it in something to drink and drink it and take it with food. That's what I normally do. I put it in my detox sludge and I take it after I eat a protein meal. So yeah, other than that, Kelsey and I are working on stuff specifically to help sleep that we think is affecting a lot of people. Of course, Kelsey came up with this first, and I'm kind of going along with it. I mean, I am going along with it, and I just started doing some testing of my own to see if I had this issue, and I'm going to be doing things that we believe are helpful with it. It's one of those things where when you're toxic, certain parts of your body stop, like musculature, like musculoskeletal stuff can stop functioning correctly. Like your body forgets, almost like you went through trauma. Like imagine somebody going through a car accident. They break their back and they're in the hospital for 6 months, let's say, in a body cast. And they have to completely learn how to walk again. Okay. Well, they have to teach their muscles literally how to walk again because they forgot. Well, I believe that similar things can happen in certain parts of the body with toxicity. Parts stop working correctly, and they do need to be retrained. So it's possible that some of the breathing muscles are not working correctly. And that may be affecting people's sleep a lot. Oh, breathing. I'm going to suggest also for mental focusing, that book Breathe. I forget the guy. One of you guys can put it in the chat. The author. There's a book called Breathe. It's a yellow cover. That's a really inexpensive place to start on breathing stuff. So, yeah. And mewingapp.co. That's the only one I recommend about mewing. That's the original guy. I don't recommend all the look maxers and all of that stuff all over the internet. Go to the originator, Mike Mew, mewingapp.co. Not calm. So there we are. But yeah, obviously your focusing will get better as you become less toxic. But the other thing to help with focusing would definitely be to work on your sleep. Yeah. Okay. So last super chat, Fernando Espin. So thank you for the super chat. He says, my tongue gets gunky, green or white, when I take your zeolite 25 grams a day, and my appetite changed eating less. Why? By the way, I like your quote, goddamn supplements. That's the quote from Grant in his articles. Goddamn supplements. Paint him with a broad brush and then say, I think some people are going to need some supplements, but these goddamn supplements are ruining things. It's like, it's hilarious when I break it down and you see the hypocrisy in it and the lack of being consistent. It's quite hilarious. So anyway, okay, your tongue gets gunky, green or white when you take my zeolite 25 grams a day. That's a good dose. That's like 5 scoops. Your appetite changed eating less. Why? Okay. So as an example, we just went over niacinamide increasing people's appetites. And I'm saying don't take niacinamide. Right? Oh, Joe put up the Breathe book. Or is it Breath? I don't remember. It's either Breath or Breathe. Joe put the Amazon link up. Now, could zeolite be detoxing something? Yeah. Could it just be that the zeolite is getting a little stuck on your tongue? That could be it too. Because zeolite, our zeolite is kind of whitish grayish, but raw zeolite straight out of the ground is greenish. Actually, I have a zeolite rock that Kelsey and I got, like a chunk of zeolite, like this big. I think I should probably put it up behind me. It's pretty cool looking. So, yeah, zeolite out in nature in its raw form, clinoptilolite, is actually greenish. And then when we charge the zeolite and we put the electrolyte minerals in it, it starts to look more whitish, grayish. So it could just be the zeolite sitting on your tongue and the minerals are getting pulled out of it. And then it looks more green, unless you have a tendency towards like post-nasal drip and a lot of phlegm. So if it's helping your body to get rid of phlegm and you're seeing it more out on your tongue, that could be it. As long as you are, but the eating less, unless you tend to be underweight and you're eating less and that's not helping, then if you're eating less and it's like not a problem and you're just going, I'm fine, like my weight is stable, or maybe you have some extra weight and you're losing a bit of it, that's fine. Like, we want our appetite to be correct. Also, as you get healthier, you're going to be more efficient with your calories and you may not need as much to run things. Like, think of a car that's not running right. Like, you get fewer miles to the same amount of gas. So you got to put more gas in the car to get the same amount of miles because it's not running well. Well, what if you make that car run better and then you don't need as much gas? You still go the same amount of miles on less gas. So it could be a bunch of things. I don't think it's anything to worry about, especially if you're feeling better. That's the main thing, right? So yeah, it could be a combination of things, or it could just be zeolite stuck on your tongue. Yeah. So thank you for liking our supplements. I mean, we really try to make the best stuff out there, and I think we do. That's what we're after. Okay, so I think that's about it. We're over time. We're at 12:30. I got to go get ready for my inner circle. If you guys don't know what the inner circle is another Q&A group that I do after this inside the Love Your Liver network. It's a separate charge. Like you want more time. But that's where we can get into, since I don't put that out into the public, I can cover much more controversial topics in the way that I would like to. So anyway, that's all I have for today. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, don't eat fortified foods. Be very cautious about anything that they use to fortify foods, like they're fortifying foods with calcium carbonate now. Pay attention to that. They're voluntarily doing it. Because they love us, because the corporations love us so much too. They're not all run by the same people. They the government and the corporations could never be run by the same people. So there's that. Joe's hitting up on the links now. Let me get into there. So past live streams. We've got that's the link if you want to go see that. So if you're looking for past live streams, actually, Joe, don't move off of this yet. If you ever can, so first of all of our shows are on Rumble. So if you ever can't find something on YouTube, go to Rumble. We'll go over that link. The past live streams, if you're going through the past live streams and you see a number skipped, because we haven't missed a week in over 4 years. If you see a number that is skipped in the live section of YouTube, go to the videos section of our main page and you'll find it over there. There's only one episode. I forget what number it is, but there's only one episode that, since I said that 3-letter word, that borine trioxide, and it's not boron. I just have to say different words. It sounds like borine trioxide, but we said that on an episode and I got a strike for it. So I will not say those words here. And if you want to know the information I talk about on that, that's inside the Love Your Liver program. I protect myself because that is such a controversial topic. I'm not sacrificing myself to talk about that stuff on public channels because it's just, I don't need to be shut down. So that's that. So anyway, the live tab and the videos tab. If you can't find one on the other, then look at the other one. Okay. So let's keep going, Joe. So next we've got, the Rumble channel, including that one that got the strike. They're all our shows are on Rumble too. So you can always find it there. If ever you can't find an episode on this channel, because I had to take it down and edit out special words that I might have accidentally said, you can always find it on Rumble until it's back up on YouTube in an edited format. So x.com, NutriDetect, NutriDetect. That's where I do most of my social media posting. We did the Rumble channel. Got the Love Your Liver program. You can find the Love Your Liver program in 2 places. So members.nutritiondetective.com. This is my do-it-yourself program. This is not a guided program. You don't have access to me. You don't have access to the facilitators. This is the program. It's written out. And there's videos, of course. That's where you can get it. You can also find it under the membership tab on nutritiondetective.com. Okay, let's keep going, Joe. So what do we got next? Well, let's just head into it. We do have, scheduling a consultation. If you want to work with Nathan or Kelsey doing the hair tests we do, the blood tests we do, and then you get access to both Kelsey and Nathan and myself inside the Love Your Liver program. You get access to the Love Your Liver program for life with that package. So you get the Love Your Liver program if you get a consultation package, you get Love Your Liver program for life. You get the consult with either Kelsey or Nathan. You get 6 months of access to office hours. You get the hair test and blood tests included. And then you get access to office hours for 6 months. And I do mine once a week. Kelsey does hers once a week. Nathan does his once a week. The other thing I'm going to say just today, because this is important, we are removing on the website right now, there is a new client price and a return client price for both US and international customers. We have found people have a tough time understanding that new client is when you're new and return client is when you're coming back. So we've decided to just have one price. So as of, if you're watching this episode later, don't email Julie after October 1st. As of October 1st, the return client pricing disappears. There will only be one price for US people, one price for international people. The international people are less because we can't run your blood tests. That's why. That's why the international is less. So if you're in the US and you want your blood tests, you need to sign up for the US price. Okay? Because that includes the blood test. That's what we work with. So just know, as of October 1st, we've been sending out a bunch of newsletters about this. So if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, you might not know about it, but we're having one price for the packages, one price for US, one price for international, and then you can pick whether you're going to work with Nathan or Kelsey. Okay? So that's that's tomorrow. So if you want to take care of that, don't email Julie after October 1st saying, can I get that deal? That's not going to happen. Okay? So let's keep going, Joe. This is our newer Instagram page. We had to make a new one because, well, you know, social media giants, they kind of get mad at you for various reasons and don't post your stuff for anybody anymore. So this is our new Instagram, the.real nutrition detective. So you can find us on Instagram there. We have the Substack. I already went over this today. We have substack.com and it's at nutrition detective, or it's drgarrettsmith.substack.com. They both work. You can just look for Nutrition Detective on Substack. This is a nutritionrestored.com/blog-forum. This is my old, I call it the research forum. I'm going to be trying to turn, so over time, I'm going to work on turning these posts into blogs and Substacks. But for now, if you want to see the articles I wrote in a blog form, I mean, it's a blog, but it's really just a forum. You can go to this website. You can search for things. Sometimes I'll link these articles here because it's where the information is. And they're all hyperlinked with studies like I normally do. So that's my old page. And we'll be migrating that stuff over as I'm able to. This is our newer Facebook page. We got to customize that link. But anyway, if you're on Facebook and you want to follow me, yeah, we had to redo the Instagram and Facebook because they're both Meta. So that's our new Facebook page, and we'll be fixing that link soon enough. So yeah, this was Love Your Liver episode 218. We were covering how Pharma really hates flush niacin, but they don't have enough good research to attack it. So they have to group it with trash niacinamide, nicotinamide, and then try to smear it indirectly. And then we talked about the hair program. Hair program should be up on Friday. Those of you who want to do it, you can get founders pricing. It's going to be $97 for membership. That's it. It's not a monthly recurring thing. But then if you're not within the first week or 2 weeks, I don't remember if it was going to be a week or 2. We'll let you know. But it was going to go up to 147 after that. So that's that. And then finally, we just did some Q&A like I do. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed that. I will see you all next time. Have a great week. And if you're not sure about what to do about how to take flush niacin, watch this again and watch our other flush niacin episodes so you know how to do it so that you can do it correctly and feel the best possible as you go through it. And yes, still you're going to have detox reactions through this stuff. It happens. I've been through them. Everybody's been through them. So, okay. Have a great week. I will see you all next time. Actually, I think we're going to have a guest next week. So that'll be a fun one. Megan Stevens of eatbeautiful.net has said she will come on next week. And she's been a huge fan of this for a very long time. Go check out her website. And yeah, she's supposed to be on next week. That was the plan as of right now. So hopefully that will all happen that way. Okay. Have a great week. Bye now.